Hello, SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded. This will be part 4 of this series focusing on the pentagram. And in this one, we'll be looking more at the mystical, spiritual, religious elements connected with this pattern. So, see the pentagram there and this connection especially to Shin, but also the tetragrammaton and the name of God written there. And then we have Shin, fire, but this also with these alchemical symbols as well, and as man is a measure of all things, this famous Baphomet image, and this one from John Dee with the 7-pointed star, but of course with the pentagram in the center, and especially in Hollywood and modern Wiccans, it's a very important emblem either way. So we began really earlier parts, to really get a sense of where we come from. Those links will be in the description, but these particular sets of numbers and how they join up in black, the ones defining the pentagram, and how we come to this 33, 153 to 73 connection. But we'll be focusing on those in this one. And so just as an example, like the in pure math, like the palindromes and how these numbers are related and have these nice connections. And yet, especially binary and palindromes is to begin with, and that goes to Gottfried Leibniz. But so we begin with 33, so 33 devas in the Vedic religion, 33 gods on Mount Meru. Mongolian shaman have 99 Tengri, but they have 33 chief gods. King David, 40-year reign, and this connection with 40 will become, because for instance 40 days in the wilderness, 40 days and nights of Jesus, 40 days in the wilderness, 40 days of nights and days of rain in the Noah flood story, 40 years in the wilderness after they in Exodus, but of those 33 years he ruled from Jerusalem. Jesus was 33 years old when he died. There are 33 beads on an Islamic prayer necklace, prayer bead, 33. Sometimes there are 99, and there are 99 speakable names of Allah as well in the Islamic tradition, which is a nice little connection there with the 99 as well. 33 bones, including a fused ones on the spinal column. But it comes especially with this very important number in Freemasonry. So, for instance, the House of a Temple in Washington, there are 33 ionic columns, each of them 33 feet high. And, of course, that's the headquarters of 33rd degree Freemasonry in the US. Very important number in these connections with NASA, for instance, Buzz Aldrin and the 33rd degree. Even runway 33 is angled at 330 degrees. That's in Cape Canaveral. And the Saturn V rockets were 33 feet wide. Now I could do a whole list of ancient places, modern places, and the importance of 33 feet. For instance, in Harappa, the isles in the granary, but also in Mohenjo-Daro, Egypt, ancient England. So just list is really endless. How much is 33? Also interesting to note, one Californian Vara was 33 inches. Sir Thomas Tresham, very famous occultist, but this the Rushton Triangular Lodge in England. It's 33 feet wide on each side, and there are 33 letters in the inscription. But also in Uruguay, so there's even a basilica there, the Virgin Mary of the 33s. But the 33 Orientals, in Uruguayan independence leaders and Freemasons from the Oriental Lodge. So there's even a state called 33, or the state of 33. The capital city, 33, or 33 City, is almost exactly on the 33rd degree south, and even the postcode 33,000, which is a nice sort of link, and just how often this repeats through. Now, the American dollar, 32 feathers on one wing, 33 on the others. This 32-33 connection is very important in especially esoteric traditions, and we'll see that in a moment. So, the UN flag, 33 sectors. The 33rd is the circle in the center, surrounded by 32. So this 33 central point around with 32, because this goes back to the ancient Portalan mapping system, which is very lovely in geometric terms. But so instead of longitude and latitude, how we do now, they worked it out a different way for navigation, but they had the 33rd central point surrounded by 32 markers. Now, this is repeated in cathedrals everywhere. Just as an example, St. Paul's Cathedral, 32, the rays around the 33rd central point. The same thing in Astana, the Pyramid of Peace. Even on their flag, really just a huge list to go into that. But also think of it in a three-dimensional sense in a soccer ball. So, okay, we get pentagons, pentagrams, and the hexagon, which was covered earlier episodes. Now, to make them into a soccer ball, you need 32 panels surrounding the 33rd central point. Hexagons, pentagons, sixes and fives, as we saw in the earlier episode, how he got originally to this 33, 153, and 273 pattern. This lovely geometry which goes on there, weights and measures, geometry, but also these more mystical connections. So very, very short list of 33 and the importance of it in the big religions, smaller shamanistic traditions, weights and measures, and from the ancient to the modern days, just touching on that. So 33, and the next one is 153. So in the Baha'i faith, there are hidden words, 82 in Persian or 71 in Arabic, 153 hidden words in total. A very famous reference from the Bible, and again, we'll come back to all of these. I'm just doing a list just to show the reflections that they go through from esoteric to the more well-known religions. But in John 21, Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have caught." This is from the miraculous draught of fishes. "Bring some of the fish you have caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled a net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. And although there were so many, the net was not torn. So it's interesting because there are certain numbers that just get repeated, especially in the Bible, for instance. But they specify like why 153 fish. That this is sort of it's not just chosen out of thin air. I'll get to it later. But for instance, the square root of 153 is the number of full moons per year. If you draw a vesica, which creates a square root of 3, the best whole number ratio is 265 divided by 153. There are really a lot of connections, but we're just touching on them. So St. Paul's School in London originally started in 1509. St. Paul's, we saw St. Paul's Cathedral with that. Even in the roof, it's the 32 to 33, but the motto was, the school originally provided education for 153 children of all nations and countries indifferently. Now, I'm spelling nations as they did. Now, 153 children. Now, the street numbering system they moved to school. Street numbering system was changed in 1884, becoming 153 Hammersmith Road. If you go to this school, you're pretty, I think my better half mentioned to me that everyone in this school even has a Wikipedia page. It is like you go to that school, it's like an expressway to fame. But you also see, because it's so important in the tradition, Christian tradition, 153 feet high and long in this church here in India, and you'll also see it in Washington, the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, 153 yards long. The dome's 108 feet wide. Like the whole church and these esoteric traditions, especially in the architecture, through weights and measures, they constantly and repeatedly embed these numbers. It's like there's a rule: you're not allowed to build one of these cathedrals or basilicas without incorporating specific measurements, but also specific, more so specific numbers, because you can make it slightly, as long as you keep it on that scale, on a certain scale, what you have is a reflection in all these really important ancient and modern architecture coming back to these very, very important numbers. Now, for instance, the Sydney Masonic Centre, 33, as we saw earlier, having this very important connection, but even there's a sculpture on the wall. It's 9 panels high, 17 wide. That's 153 panels. Again, I'll be coming back to 153, 33, 273, just getting some of the, let's say, spiritual, mystical connections in regards to this. So 33, 153, and now 273 in the Book of Numbers in 33, and for the redemption of 273 of the firstborn of the people of Israel, over and above the number of male Levites. Now, Levites is also an interesting connection, especially in regards to the temple, Solomon's temple, but also the stone the builders rejected, this very important theme in Freemasons and ancient Masons, going back to the legend of Hiram Abiff, King Hiram, who come to Jerusalem, and so to build Solomon's temple, only priests were allowed to enter the holy precinct, and so they had to train priests to be Masons, and King Hiram trained him, and then he was eventually betrayed and killed. They were trying to get his secrets, but what's interesting is, like in this, in Isosophy or Gematria, that Hiram Abiff, the stone which the builders refused, is become the headstone of the corner. Did a series on cornerstones as well, and how important they are in churches and other buildings. A cornerstone ceremony, especially usually conducted by Masons. It doesn't have to be a Masonic building, whether it's courthouses, major public buildings. They tend to get Masons in there. But long as Hiram Abiff, the stone the builders refused. Okay, that's the stone the builders refused. And a few other interesting connections as well in regards to 273. So these numbers themselves are beautifully, intricately, spectacularly connected back to 72, 144, 216, and 288. So it's not just cherry picking 33, 153, because it's, with a bit of geometry you could specify any of these angles, but we'll come back to it more, because it's not just in the legends and the traditions. The pure math and geometry and even weights and measure systems all come back to this and beautifully connect all these systems back together. But that will be in the next few episodes. Yeah, but it really is pretty. I've been doing this for more than a few years now, looking into this, and it never ceases to amaze me how much is hidden in plain sight, but how much of our let's call it secular weights and measures and architecture is just not hinting at this. It is a standard. It is necessary. Major public buildings, whether cathedrals, town halls, parliamentary buildings like the Congress building in the US Supreme Court building, they all contain this information, and it's pretty extraordinary, and it comes from the pure math, pure geometry, which would go to suggest that these how important, because the rules of geometry and number are, let's just say, divine rules, and so it should not be no surprise that not just Western traditions but other ones come back to these specific numbers because of the importance of them. It's nature is defining, nature is telling us these are this is how you do it. And unfortunately, it's a beautiful thing, but it could be like a sword. You can use it for good, you can use it for evil, but the thing is, it is embedded into nature. The laws of math and geometry just lead to these sorts of things, and these numbers are spectacular in a pure factual sense. Whatever philosophy you go for or attach, if you just follow the patterns of nature, they will lead you to these sets of numbers. And so with that, I hope you enjoyed and have a good one. A lot more to come, and the next ones will be really going into some really, really crazy connections, but measurable, tangible stuff. So have a good one.